What happens when two of country music's biggest stars collide on live television in a way no one could have predicted? That's exactly what unfolded when Reba McEntire stunned audiences by storming off the Clarkson show after an interview that began pleasantly but quickly spiraled into a tense and emotional confrontation. The atmosphere in the studio seemed perfectly normal at first. Kelly, ever the charming host, greeted Reba with her trademark warmth, smiling brightly as she complimented her new album and reminisced about the duet they recorded together years ago. But Reba's polite expression masked something deeper. "It's always interesting to see how people remember things differently than how they actually happened," she remarked coolly, and a heavy silence filled the room. Kelly's smile faltered slightly, though she pressed on, trying to maintain her composure. What followed was an exchange that grew increasingly uncomfortable to watch. Reba's tone sharpened as she hinted at unresolved tensions from their past collaboration, accusing Kelly of taking creative credit for arrangements and lyric changes that weren't hers. Kelly, visibly shaken, denied any wrongdoing, insisting the project had been a true collaboration. But Reba wasn't convinced. Her voice grew harder, her words laced with decades of pride and frustration. She accused Kelly of shaping interviews and stories to make herself appear as the creative force behind their hit, leaving Reba's contributions overshadowed. Kelly's face flushed with emotion, struggling to find the right words. She expressed nothing but admiration and gratitude toward Reba, calling her a legend and an inspiration, but that only seemed to inflame the situation. "Legacy," Reba repeated with a bitter laugh. "I'm tired of being treated like some museum piece, a name younger artists use to give themselves credibility." Her voice cut through the stunned silence of the audience. Kelly's eyes glistened as she fought back tears, insisting that she had always respected Reba and never meant to misrepresent her. But Reba wasn't finished. "Respect," she said sharply, leaning forward. "Respect would have been checking with me before you told stories that made it sound like you were the teacher and I was the student. Respect would have been making sure I was comfortable with how that duet was being promoted." The tension was unbearable now, the kind that could only come from years of unspoken resentment bubbling to the surface. Kelly, her professional poise slipping, tried once more to defend herself. "Reba, I never meant to make it sound that way. I was just sharing my experience working with you." But Reba's reply came swiftly, her tone cold but trembling with emotion. "And what about my experience, Kelly? I watched interview after interview where you talked about bringing your pop sensibilities to country music using our duet as your example, like I hadn't been crossing musical boundaries long before you ever came along." The studio audience sat frozen, every eye locked on the two women as years of unspoken tension played out in real time. Kelly looked heartbroken, Reba resolute but visibly shaken. Finally, without another word, Reba stood, adjusted her jacket and walked off the set, leaving Kelly sitting in stunned silence as the cameras kept rolling. It was a moment no one could have scripted, a clash of two country icons laid bare before a live audience, and one that would leave fans and industry insiders talking for years to come. The tension in the studio had reached a boiling point. What began as a cordial interview between two celebrated artists, Kelly Clarkson and Reba McEntire, had erupted into a raw, unscripted confrontation that no one saw coming. Reba's accusation cut through the air like a blade. Young pop star helps country legend find new sound. That was the narrative, wasn't it? Her tone dripped with bitterness, but this time Kelly didn't shrink back. Her eyes flashed with something fierce, a resolve rarely seen from the usually bubbly talk show host. "No, Reba," Kelly shot back, her voice steady but trembling with emotion. "That wasn't the narrative at all, and I'm getting really tired of you putting words in my mouth and intentions in my heart that were never there." The audience gasped softly, sensing the power dynamic shifting. Reba raised an eyebrow, clearly caught off guard by Kelly's sudden defiance. "Oh, so now you're going to tell me I imagined the whole thing?" she challenged. "I'm going to tell you the truth," Kelly countered, leaning forward. "I spent weeks preparing for those recording sessions, studying your catalog, learning your history, because I wanted to honor what you've built. I didn't go in there thinking I was going to teach Reba McEntire anything about music." Reba's eyes narrowed. "Then explain to me how every interview you gave made it sound like you were the creative driving force behind our collaboration," she demanded. Explain how your name ended up listed first on half the promotional materials. Kelly blinked, stunned. My publicist? Reba, I don't control how record labels handle marketing. If there were mistakes, they weren't intentional. Reba laughed bitterly. Right. Because accidentally listing the country legend second behind the pop crossover artist was just an innocent little oops. Kelly's voice rose, matching Reba's heat.
Yes, maybe it was.
Believe it or not, Reba, the world doesn't revolve around a conspiracy to diminish your legacy. Sometimes mistakes happen that artists have no control over. The studio was silent, the kind of silence that vibrates with discomfort. Reba's cheeks flushed red with fury. You're still making excuses, she snapped. That just proves my point about your character. Kelly's voice cracked, pain spilling through her words. My character? Reba, I've spent my career lifting up other artists and especially women. I've never tried to steal anyone's spotlight or take credit for their work. But Reba pressed on relentlessly. Then why did I watch you on 3 talk shows talking about how you brought a fresh perspective to country music, using our duet as your example? Kelly threw her hands up in disbelief. Because that's what they ask about when a pop artist does a country collaboration. I was just explaining my side of the process. Reba leaned forward sharply. Your experience of teaching the veteran new tricks? Your experience of helping modernize my sound? Those were your exact words on The Tonight Show. Don't deny it, I recorded it. Kelly's face went pale. I never said I was teaching you anything, she insisted. I was describing what a collaboration means. 2 artists bringing their strengths together. Reba scoffed. Collaboration? Real collaboration means equal respect. It means the younger artist acknowledges what she's learned from the one who paved the way. Kelly's voice shook now, both fragile and defiant. I did say that, Reba, in multiple interviews. I told people how much I learned from you. After the backlash, Reba cut in sharply, after people started calling you out for acting like the creative leader. That's not humility, that's damage control. Kelly's composure finally cracked. Her voice trembled with fury. That's not what happened, and you know it. I've only ever been grateful to work with you. Reba laughed coldly. Grateful? You mean right up until the interviews where you started talking about bringing country into the modern era? Like you were leading the charge? Kelly's frustration finally boiled over. Because that's the angle journalists push when a pop artist does a country project. I was answering questions, not scheming to steal your thunder. Reba didn't back down. You could have redirected those conversations, she snapped. You could have said, Reba McEntire has been crossing musical boundaries long before I came along. Kelly's eyes welled with tears, her voice breaking but firm. I did say things like that. Maybe not every time, but I did. And the fact that you're sitting here acting like I orchestrated some campaign against you is breaking my heart. Reba's tone turned icy. You want to know what broke my heart? Watching someone I mentored and supported turn our collaboration into her own story about being an innovator. Kelly looked stunned. Mentored. Reba, we worked together for 2 weeks. We recorded 1 song. When exactly did you mentor me? The question landed like a slap. Reba's face hardened. When I agreed to work with you, Kelly. When I lent my name and reputation to boost your credibility in country music. That was mentorship, whether you admit it or not. Kelly stared at her for a long moment, the air thick with anger and disbelief. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but edged with steel. So you think working with me was charity? That you were doing me some kind of favor? Reba's reply came slow and deliberate. I think I gave you an opportunity that opened doors. And instead of gratitude, you used it to build your own narrative about artistic growth. Kelly's face hardened, her voice now a mix of pain and defiance. You're right about one thing, Reba, she said softly, each word cutting through the silence. That collaboration did teach me something important about the music industry. The crowd held its breath as Reba's eyes widened, unprepared for the shift in Kelly's tone. Whatever came next, it was clear. This wasn't just an argument about a song anymore. It was a reckoning years in the making. Oh, really? And what lesson was that? Kelly demanded, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Her voice trembled but stayed sharp. It taught me that some people in this industry are so insecure about their own relevance that they need to control every single narrative, even years later. The audience gasped, the sound echoing through the studio as people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Somewhere in the back, someone whispered, "Oh my God," loud enough for the microphones to catch it. Reba's face went pale, then red, then pale again. "Excuse me?" Reba said stiffly. "You heard me," Kelly shot back, her professional facade completely gone. "You want to talk about character, Reba? Let's talk about what kind of character it takes to come on someone's show, smile for the cameras, and then ambush them with accusations about things that happened years ago." "Ambush you?" Reba's tone dropped to a dangerous calm. "Kelly, this isn't an ambush. This is me finally telling you the truth about how your actions affected people." "No," Kelly retorted, leaning forward. "This is you using my platform to air grievances you never had the courage to address directly. You said you tried to reach out. When? Because I've always been accessible to anyone who wanted to talk to me, especially someone like you." Reba leaned back with a cold smile. "Oh, so now it's my fault for not trying hard enough to get through to the busy little pop star? It's your fault for coming on my show and blindsiding me instead of having an adult conversation," Kelly fired back. "It's your fault for assuming the worst about me without ever asking what I meant." "Assumptions?" Reba's voice rose. "Kelly, I didn't assume anything. I watched the interviews. I read the articles. I saw how it all played out in the media." "And you decided," Kelly interrupted, "that I was personally responsible for every headline, every promo, every question asked. You decided everything that bothered you was somehow my master plan." "Not true," Reba snapped. "Do you have any idea what it's like to watch someone half your age get praised for bringing innovation to music you've spent decades perfecting? To have your artistic integrity questioned by someone you looked up to?" Kelly stood abruptly. "And do you have any idea what it's like to be accused of being manipulative when all you did was work hard and speak honestly?" The two women stood face to face, the small coffee table between them like a fragile barrier. The audience was completely silent, some covering their mouths in disbelief. Reba let out a harsh, bitter laugh. "If you were being honest, Kelly, then your honesty showed me exactly what I suspected. Your ego and your priorities." Kelly's face softened for a heartbeat before hardening again. "My ego? You came here to lecture me about gratitude like I should be thankful just to work with you, as if collaborating with me was some kind of charity." "It wasn't charity," Reba snapped, "but it was an opportunity a lot of artists would have handled with more grace and humility." "Grace and humility?" Kelly's voice cracked in disbelief. "What would have been graceful, Reba? Pretending I was just lucky to be in the same room as you? Downplaying my work so your feelings wouldn't get hurt? You should have remembered who paved the road you're walking on," Reba fired back, her voice booming across the studio. The words hit Kelly like a physical blow. For a moment she just stared at Reba, her expression filled with disbelief and pain. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet but full of heartbreak. "You know what hurts the most? I really thought we made something beautiful together. I thought that song represented 2 generations of women supporting each other, something neither of us could have made alone." Reba's expression softened slightly, but her tone remained cold. "That's what I thought too, Kelly, until I watched you turn it into a showcase for your own growth." "I never turned it into anything," Kelly said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I shared my experience because that's what artists do. I talked about what the collaboration meant to me, that's all." "And it never occurred to you," Reba cut in, "that maybe Reba McEntire didn't need a young pop star explaining to the world how she helped modernize country music?" Kelly threw up her hands. "I never said that. I said working with you taught me about timeless songwriting. I said our collaboration showed me new ways to approach melody and storytelling. After you spent half of every interview talking about bringing your pop sensibilities to traditional country," Reba shot back. "Because that's what I brought to the table," Kelly exploded. "That's what collaboration means. Each artist brings their own strengths. You brought yours, I brought mine, and together we created something special. Something you then used as an example of your versatility and growth," Reba countered sharply. Kelly stared at her for a long moment, then spoke with chilling calm. "You know what, Reba? You're right about one thing." Reba crossed her arms, waiting. "This conversation has taught me something about you," Kelly continued. "It's taught me that you're so threatened by younger artists getting recognition that you can't celebrate their success without feeling like it diminishes your own." The words hung in the air like a bomb. Reba's face twisted through shock, rage, and hurt before settling on an expression of betrayal. The silence was suffocating. When she finally spoke, her voice was low but laced with venom. "Threatened by younger artists?" she repeated slowly. "Kelly, I've spent 40 years building up younger artists, mentoring them, opening doors for them." Kelly's voice broke as she met her eyes. "Then why can't you do the same for me? Why can't you just be proud that our collaboration was successful?" Kelly's voice trembled with emotion. "Why can't you celebrate that it introduced your music to a whole new generation of fans?" Reba's composure shattered in an instant. "Because you made it about you," she exploded, her voice echoing through the silent studio. "Instead of honoring what we created together, you turned it into Kelly Clarkson's journey of artistic discovery. You took something that should have been a celebration of two artists and made it a case study in your own evolution." Kelly's face was red with anger, streaked with tears, but her voice remained steady. "That is not what I did," she said fiercely, "and deep down you know it. What you're really angry about is that I didn't spend every interview talking about how grateful and lucky I was to work with the great Reba McEntire. What I'm angry about," Reba shot back, "is that you never once acted like there might be something for you to be grateful for. You treated working with me like it was just another collaboration, with just another artist." Kelly's voice rose, breaking under the pressure. "Because that's what it was supposed to be. Two artists equals creating something beautiful together. It wasn't supposed to be me kissing the ring and being thankful for scraps from the Queen's table." The words hit Reba like a slap. Her mouth fell open, her expression a mixture of shock and heartbreak. "Scraps from the Queen's table?" she repeated, her voice hollow and trembling. "Is that really what you think of me? Is that how you see someone who's given everything to this industry and tried to lift up every artist she's ever worked with?" Kelly's eyes widened, regret flooding her face. "Reba, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant our collaboration wasn't charity. It wasn't some kind of favor you were doing for me." But Reba was already shaking her head, her face set with disappointment. "No, Kelly, I think you meant exactly what you said. I think that's how you've always seen me. Some aging queen holding court, expecting younger artists to grovel for approval." "That's not true," Kelly pleaded, reaching out toward her. "I have nothing but respect and admiration for you. You're one of my heroes." Reba stepped back, avoiding her touch. "Heroes don't expect gratitude, right? Heroes just fade into the background while the real stars take center stage." Kelly's tears streamed freely now. "Stop putting words in my mouth," she begged. "You're twisting everything I've said." Reba's tone turned eerily calm. "I'm not twisting anything. I'm finally hearing what you really think of me, and my place in your story. And you know what? It's exactly what I suspected all along." Kelly was openly sobbing, her voice cracking as she tried to salvage what was left. "Reba, please. This has gotten completely out of hand. We both said things we didn't mean. Can't we just step back and talk about this like adults?" Reba gave a bitter, humorless laugh. "Adults? Adults don't let resentment build for years and then explode on national television. Adults don't accuse collaborators of being insecure queens desperate for validation." Kelly choked out, "I'm sorry. I was angry. I said something cruel. It doesn't represent how I really feel about you." Reba stared at her for a long, heavy moment, her expression shifting into something harder, colder. "You know what, Kelly? I think it represents exactly how you feel, how a lot of people in this industry feel about artists like me. We're museum pieces, trotted out for credibility, then dismissed when it's time to be modern and relevant." "That's not true," Kelly whispered weakly. "Isn't it?" Reba asked, her voice low but cutting. "Because from where I'm standing, this whole conversation has been about you defending your right to use our collaboration as proof of your growth, without ever acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, the veteran in the room contributed something valuable too." Kelly tried to speak again, but Reba lifted a hand to silence her. "You know what? I'm done. I'm done trying to explain to someone half my age why respect matters. I'm done trying to make you understand that legacy isn't just about what you achieve. It's about how you honor those who came before you." The studio fell deathly silent. Reba walked back to her chair, picked up her purse, and stood tall, her dignity radiating through the tension. "Reba, please don't leave," Kelly begged, following her. "We can talk privately after the show." Reba turned to face her one last time, her eyes filled with both sorrow and finality.
Kelly, I think we've both said everything we needed to say.
The cameras caught it all. Your audience heard every word. Now everyone knows exactly where we stand. Kelly's voice cracked. This isn't how I wanted things to go. This isn't who I am. Reba sighed softly. Maybe not. But it's who you are today. In this moment when it mattered most. With that, Reba McEntire turned and walked toward the exit, the echo of her heels the only sound in the stunned silence. Kelly stood frozen at the center of her own stage, tears streaming down her face as she watched one of her heroes walk out of her life. The studio door closed behind Reba with a quiet final click. Kelly sank into her chair, covering her face with her hands, as the audience sat in shocked silence, unsure whether to applaud, comfort her, or simply pretend they hadn't just witnessed the public collapse of a once great friendship. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of the heartbreaking scene, and somewhere in the control room, producers were already calculating the viral impact of what had just unfolded. What began as a routine daytime interview had turned into one of the most raw, emotional, and unforgettable moments in television history, a clash of pride, pain, and misunderstanding that left two musical legends broken, their bond seemingly beyond repair.